Good morning. You are Honorable Adan Barre Duale, EGH.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Welcome to familiar ground. Twice within 2 years. And you're welcome to this parliamentary committee on appointments. I'm the chairman, the Speaker of the National Assembly. We have the Deputy Speaker, Gladys Boss. We have Njoroge, our clerk. I'll invite all the members to introduce themselves for the record, starting with Naisula. Evidence on oath. So you have a choice between the Quran, the Bible, or affirmation. You obviously is the Quran.
I have only one choice.
Take the Quran in your right hand, be upstanding. And recite the oath that the sergeant will.
I, Adan Barre Duale, do swear that the evidence I shall give before this committee on the matter under its consideration shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God.
Thank you. Take your seats and sign the oath. You may also pass on your documents to the clerk for him to be able to cross-check with what is in our possession. So we'll start, Honorable Duale, by asking you introductory questions. Tell us your name, your education background, your work experience, your competences, that lead to your suitability for the appointment that you have had.
Thank you, Mr. of the Appointment Committee. Speaker, on the onset, I want to thank you and this committee and the entire House for giving me this opportunity to appear for vetting for the second time. I also want to thank His Excellency the President for according me a second opportunity in a different ministry to serve the people of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, I grew up in Garissa. I went to school there, Garissa High School, Boys Town Primary School, Moi Forces Academy. I did my first graduate degree in Moi University, Bachelor of Education Economics. And finally, I did my master's in business administration in 2011 at Jomo Kenyatta University of Science and Technology. I worked in the private sector. I was a businessman before I joined politics in 2007. I served the people of Dugis between 2008 and 2013. During the Grand Coalition government, I was an assistant minister for livestock. I served with you, Mr. Speaker, in that government as the Minister for Foreign Affairs. And between 2013 and 2014, the people of Garissa Township gave me an opportunity to serve them again. And again to serve them between 2017 and 2022. And again, they gave me an opportunity to serve them between 2022 for about 2-3 months. So I served as a member of parliament for 4 consecutive terms, which the last one I did not complete because the president in his wisdom poached me from the legislature and to help him in the executive. I was the first majority leader under the 2010 Constitution. I served for 8 years. I led in making sure that the government business during that period sailed through. Over 150 bills were enacted, had my signature. And Mr. Speaker, I had a wonderful time working with a cross-section of leaders from different parts of our country, from different gender and age, and from different political formation. As the Minister for Defense for the last 2 years and 1 month, Mr. Speaker, my record speaks for it. Today I can confirm without fear of contradiction that the housing project, since independence, over 4,000 housing units are under construction, launched them in Laikipia, in Nyanyuki, in Gilgil, in Mariakani, in Roysambu. Through this august house, I passed the Prime Healthcare Fund, where now the Kenyan citizens have an opportunity partially to access the robust medical facilities and hospitals, the level 5 and level 4 hospitals of the Kenya Defense Forces. If you are in Eldoret, if you are in Nakuru, if you are in Mombasa, if you are in Nairobi, you can at certain level access. Through this house, Mr. Speaker, I passed the National Peace Fund, which is now domiciled, that helps our men and women in uniform who serve in peace missions. Today, there's enough resources to buy them the required equipments within the standard of the UN peacekeeping missions. On defense diplomacy, Mr. Speaker, I am the first minister in the history of Kenya to host the US Secretary of Defense, to host the British, the UK Minister for Armed Forces. Today, as I leave the Minister of Defense, through the what they call the excess defense article, 150 vehicles, anti-mine vehicles have been donated to the Kenya Defense Forces. I secured $57 million for the expansion of the Manda airstrip in a partnership between Kenya and the US. The National Defense College today, under the support of the partnership we have with the US government, is constructing the largest in our region, the School of Strategic and Security Studies, to the tune of $5 billion because of that. And finally, I want to say it, the only center, the Center for Terrorism, Counterterrorism, Counterinsurgency in Laikipia, funded by the US, UK, and the Kenya government. One of its type is ready for commissioning. Of course, in the war against terror, Mr. Speaker, in the last 2 years, Boni is safe, the North is safe, Nairobi is safe. Kenya Defense Forces have taken the war to Al-Shabaab inside Somalia. We will not anymore, at any given time, we're not going to wait for them at our borders. We will not allow them to come to our cities. We have taken the war to them. So, Mr. Speaker, my qualifications, academic qualifications, my experience as a member of parliament and as a leader in this country, the stint I had as the Minister of Defense, my age, my role in the private sector and business gives me the required testimonial. But finally, to say, Mr. Speaker, I have never been indicted in any adversely in any report of parliament. I have always had clearance from the criminal justice system, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, the DCI. I have never violated Chapter 6 of the Constitution, never violated Article 75 of the Constitution, and I think I am ready and willing to serve the people of Kenya in the docket of environment, climate change, and forestry. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Honorable Duale. We'll now start off with the members asking the answers in the interest of time. We'll start with the Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Duale, you will recall that during COP27, the President made it clear that Kenya's biggest export would be carbon credits, and asked for a simple and transparent system of ensuring that people can access these market systems, and not just the intermediaries, but also down to the local people. If approved, how are you going to ensure that this carbon trading trickles down right to the
Speaker? That amendment that this House did created a very robust legislation where the role of the community, particularly inland carbon projects, and I'll give an example in the northern Kenya, the so-called Northern Rangeland Trust. Before communities were evicted from those lands, before this law, there was cultural disruption by these project proponents. Before this law, because there was a lacuna, there was no even register for the carbon markets. Today, I want to report that the law this House has passed gives communities 40% of whatever carbon markets resources are received from the developed world. Today, NEMA as an organization is the custodian of the register. A company cannot just come into our country and go to our forested areas, can go to our rangelands and enter into an agreement with the project implementers. The community has a role, the community has a percentage, and even in that same amendment law, you created the element of the offenses. That today in our country, if you commit certain crimes, even money laundering in carbon credit business, falsification, not involving the communities, then you need to have to play. So I want to assure, if this committee approves me, that my mantra will be public participation, public consultation at the community level. Communities will have a role. On the second most important element is the restoration program that has been started by the President of the Republic of Kenya in December, where we said we must restore our rangelands, where we are going to plant 15 billion trees, restore also our forest, because currently our forest cover is 12.13%, and we anticipate that by 2032 we must reach 30%, from 12.1 to 30% forest cover. Tree cover. Our forest cover as of now is about 8.83%. So, Mr. Speaker, a number of strategies has been put in place so far to give the status. So far, we have done 400 million trees out of the 15 billion. That is not a very good indicator. I think we're not doing very well. And I want to do a number of things if this committee approves me. Number one, and it has happened in other countries like Ethiopia, it can be a trickle down. The restoration program, the planting of trees, must be a bottom-up approach. The communities must own it. It must be citizen-driven. And we must mix it with a situation where 10 to 15% of the trees we are going to plant must be fruit trees, that communities see the value, that as you plant trees, they also plant mango, they plant many, many other fruit trees, that will entice our communities at the rural sections of our society. Two, this program requires serious resource mobilization. So there will be a resource mobilization both by government, by donors, by the private sector. Thirdly, and most important, we must preserve the current forest that we have. We need to do 11 million kilometers of fence of all the forests that we have in our country. Thirdly, the private sector must be given a space. Private sector, where the corporates have a role in all their strategic partners, whether it's Safaricom, whether it's the banks, that every section of our degraded forest area, a certain private sector person is given to, and they can use it even to rebrand it and even own it. So, Mr. Speaker, communities play a very big role, and I am sure right now as we speak, 4 ministries are leading: the Ministry of Interior, the Ministry of Defense, the Ministry of Environment. There are 3 ministries which are at the bottom, including the Ministry of Agriculture. If this committee approves me, Mr. Speaker and honorable committee members, I think this is a game changer. On the flip side of it, Mr. Speaker, that again will be linked to the carbon credit. A lot of resources will come to our country, because the more we restore our forest, the more we'll play a role in the reduction of the emissions, the greenhouse emissions. So on one side, it's good for our country. We will increase our forest cover. It's in the Constitution. And Mr. Speaker, let me say it. In our preamble, Article 4 of our preamble talks about the environment. We must preserve our environment. It's our heritage. So it is, it's not even an article of the Constitution. It is in the 4th preamble of our Constitution. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. In the next,
to start with a clarification, Honorable Duale, you said you work with corporates to restore degraded forest and own it. I hope you said you don't mean to transfer ownership to the corporates. I hope it's to own the work.
And they can use it for branding.
Thank you. I don't want to repeat what you've said, because you've, as the Speaker said, you've really taken care of the carbon credits issue. But even as you do that work, Honorable Duale, you know we have very many petitions in Parliament on degazetted forests and forests that are grabbed. I would want to hear how you intend to work with Parliament, especially in dealing with all those issues, land issues around degazettement, encroachment of forests, and outright land grabbing of forested areas. Case in point, I'm aware, I know, and I don't know if you may be aware of the Ololua forest matter just outside Nairobi, and what you intend to do to reclaim all this grabbed forest land.
Mr. Speaker, when I look at the ministry and even Parliament, there are a number of petitions touching on forest, grab land of the forest, part of the forest be put under use either for agriculture, for even government offices across the country. And the history of forest being grabbed, being encroached, is as old as the Republic of Kenya. In my entire life in Parliament, from the Mao forest, when the Honorable late Michuki was the Minister for Environment, it's a recurring thing. And what I want to intend, if this House approves me, Mr. Speaker, is first to consolidate all those petitions. Some are genuine, some are out of fraud. Generally deliver a cabinet memo, and the cabinet, the highest decision-making organ of our country can make a decision on this matter. All the petitions, the ones dealt with the Parliament, the ones which have not been dealt. Coming specifically to Ololua, Mr. Speaker, I want to categorically, without fear of contradiction, say that if this House approves me, in the first 30 days, working with the Minister for Lands and other government agencies, a number of titles, including and belonging to big people in government, some of them members of Parliament, will be revoked. I will revoke those. And I am ready to bear the consequences, particularly for the one on Ololua. I have been briefed, I have listened to experts, and I have seen it's deliberate. In the last 2 years, there are people who got illegal title deeds, and I think it will be the first place I will visit, and more so with the Committee on Environment. And I hope the chair is a member of this committee, my chair. We will visit, and please, Mr. Speaker, some of your members might be casualties.
No problem. If you do what is right, we will support you. Yes.
Mr. Speaker, is that to say the CS nominee actually knows the grabbers of Ololua Forest? Because he has claimed they are senior government officers, including members of Parliament. I hope he's not referring to me since I asked the question.
Mr. Speaker, I am the nominee for the Ministry of Environment, Climate Change, and Forestry. So if this House approves me, forestry will be my business. Grabbers of forest land will be my business. Whoever they are, whatever their status is in society. Mr. Speaker, if I just to say it, and I think for record, let me say it. With the last 2 years when I was at the Ministry of Defense, and I had the privilege to serve as a member of the National Security Council, and you served as a member of the Security Council when you're Minister of Foreign Affairs. If today I'm asked between Al-Shabaab and corruption, which is a threat to the national security of Kenya, without fear of contradiction, I say corruption is more of a threat to our security and our existence than Al-Shabaab, because Al-Shabaab, you can identify, you know their location, you know their capability, but corruption is the one that is killing our country. So, as I go to environment, from NEMA to forestry, at least, if you are hearing me and you sit here or you are somewhere and you have allocated yourself illegally some forest land, be warned if this committee approves me.
Jeanette?
Mr. Speaker, I have two questions for the nominee. One is, first, it is one of which is on him, one of the nominees that have come here, Mr. Speaker, and he said, if you approve me, I am carrying an axe with my hand. I'm going to deal with people. This is very good because many people fear to give their position. But having said that, Mr. Speaker, what do you think? One issue. What does he think is one issue, environmental issue of high consequence that the country should focus on? That you think, as a country, we should focus on this one environmental issue. Secondly, the government pronounced and said that they want to plant 15 billion trees by 2032. Is that achievable in your view? What do you think? What will be the criteria of achieving that? And lastly, you see, Mr. Speaker, we are now in a public forum. The public is listening to us. And the nominee, whom I know very well, who was our majority leader for many years, whom we found in Parliament, is somebody who does not mince his words, somebody who speaks his mind. He said that there are people who have grabbed land, especially Lulua Forest, and they are public people. There are some of them in high government offices and others even in Parliament. could he share with us who those people could be, so that we also know that maybe where we are sleeping is maybe not a forest. Maybe some of us are living inside a forest, Mr. Speaker, so we can start packing before he's approved.
Mr. Speaker, Honorable Junet has asked me 3 questions. The first question was, what is this one thing that is serious and a threat to our environment? Mr. Speaker, as I said earlier, environment, the place of environment is in our preamble of the Constitution. Environment has been cited in Article 42 of the Constitution, that every Kenyan has a right to secure and clean environment. Article 69 of the Constitution talks about citizen rights on environmental issues. And even Article 70, Mr. Speaker, it is very explicit that if the state or any other actors violate the environmental rights of citizens, it says they can go to a court of law. So public participation, stakeholder engagement, citizens' right is very key to environment. But with these rights to the environment comes with responsibility. All of us have a responsibility to protect and preserve our heritage, which is our environment. Three critical things, Honorable Junet, that we are facing as a country. We are facing pollution, very serious, both air and water. We have serious pollution. I am sure some of the members and the citizens listening to me, our air is polluted by industries, by noise pollution. Then you come to our rivers. Our rivers, our oceans are polluted. Mr. Speaker, the 3 rivers that originate from Honorable Ichungwa's constituency, it's called the Ondiri Swamp. By the time, because of the sewage and all the other things that they pass through, the Athi, the Madare, the Ngong rivers, is completely polluted. The second thing, Honorable Junet, is our biodiversity. Our biodiversity.
But from Dagoretti, the origin is very clean.
Yes. Yes, Honorable. Thank you for that information. Yeah, the origin is clean, but it's very subjective, so we need to go with you and check. So biodiversity. A lot of the biodiversity, whether big, small, our heritage, are finishing. How are they finished? Through agriculture. Even the small insects, through agriculture, through road constructions. You know, infrastructure is a big threat. And then the most now I can pick it, Honorable Junet, is how we manage our waste. The waste management in our country and in our counties is in very dire situation. The law has been passed by this House. MCA of 1999, various amendments, even the coding of our waste. It's a household responsibility. Honorable Deputy Speaker, for example, if I pick her, in her own house, she's supposed to have 2 different coded bags, one for the wet waste and one for the dry waste. The person picking it is supposed to have 2 different trucks. When it goes to Dandora's site, it's supposed to have where you can deliver the dry, where it can be recycled, and where you can deliver the organic, where it can be used for fertilizer and many, many things. So those 3 issues, and also the waste management, I think is something that I will maybe later explain we must deal with. The 15 billion tree planting, Ethiopia did 30 billion. Ethiopia is a country that we can be proud of, we can learn a lot. I am ready to go to Ethiopia. I'm ready to walk the talk, help the president, talk to citizens, use leaders who are here. Leaders, stakeholders are very, very important. These tree planting, members of parliament are very, very important. It's not about taking a chopper, planting a few trees. You don't know who takes care about them. In fact, the problem is it's not about, it's planting and then making sure the tree grow. So there is planting and growing. So members of parliament, all of us, the private sector, the public sector, the communities at home, will help us.
Thank you. This time around, I'll start with Miss Caleb. I've been petitioned by Mishi and Mukami that I change tact in who's.
But it's okay.
Give it to Mukami then.
No, I will, Speaker.
And ask, in the interest of time, ask one question, get one answer.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll ask one question because I was trying to prepare the second one. If I get a chance, later I will. There is a major conference happening in November in Azerbaijan and Baku. Do you know the conference, the name, the history, and how Kenya can tap into such global climate conferences in the fight for climate change?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Of parties to the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC, which is known as COP29, will be held in Baku, in Azerbaijan, between the 11th and 22nd of November this year, inshallah. And Mr. Speaker, on the 11th is the first day for the heads of state and government to have their meeting, and then the next, on the 13th, will be the World Leaders Conference on Climate Change. What are the top priorities that this conference will come up with? One, this conference is supposed to deal with the adaptation of what they call the new collective qualified goal for climate financing. Climate financing has just been a talk show from COP15 in Copenhagen to all the time COP28 in Dubai. So this time we're saying, people are saying we must adopt a proper financing model. The epicenter of climate change and climate adaptation and climate mitigation is around climate financing. So that will be a discussion. That in Copenhagen, which was, I think, COP15, people pledged 100 billion US dollars. Up to now, I think nothing has been given. But for Africa and for Kenya, Mr. Speaker, we are taking the carbon credit issue. This carbon credit issue must be concluded. And again, thirdly, the finalization of the operationalization of Article 6 of the Paris Agreement, which defines carbon market, is what I think Kenya, led by President Ruto, and all of us, and Africa, we will take it to the table that let us not have a talk show. The UN meetings must come with clear, achievable, clear, deliverable for fighting climate mitigation and climate adaptation.
Mukami?
Speaker, with your permission, kindly, I request to finish the other question. It's a privilege of being the first. Thank you, Speaker. I just want to know where the nominee came from, the Ministry of Defense, because I happen to have served in the Committee of Defense and interacted with the ministry a lot. There is something peculiar that happened that I've not seen, where the public officers use defense choppers, the military choppers, and the military artillery to move around the country, putting the risk of the defense and of course the officers. In fact, in the public domain, it can be true or not true, which if not true, I will withdraw, is that the military has feared you. You have become more military than the military themselves. Is it true, and why did the military fear you?
But, you have put many things. I don't know, you talked about choppers, and then you brought the issue of fear. So are you saying I fear going by military choppers?
No, I said I've never seen other public officers, other than the president, who is the commander-in-chief, used in military choppers to move around the country, and other members of the public office who are not in the military. And also, there is a
Are
war.
you talking of civilians? Because
Civilian.
military officers are also public officers.
Yeah, like when like the deputy president, like the ministers. This is something that I've never seen for some time. So I wanted just him to clarify whether also deputy president is allowed to use military choppers, or was it misuse of power in your? Because it's something that I've never seen with the previous ministers.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, let me say it because it gave me a lot of bad publicity. But when you serve in a public office, that's part of life. Within the reading and the instruction of the Commander-in-Chief, at the Ministry of Defense, the Commander-in-Chief is the President. The President and the First Lady are the people allowed to use military air assets with a rider. If the Commander-in-Chief allows the Speaker of the National Assembly to be airlifted from Nairobi to Bungoma, that is in order, but with the concurrence of the Commander-in-Chief. I don't think the rank and the file and the leadership of the Defense Ministry fear me. Maybe my style. And I'll take the same style to Forest. I'll take the same style. I had the same style in Parliament. When I was a leader.
We have no evidence that they fear you. Mukami?
The government directives on grazing within the forest. The foresters are really harassing the communities. What are the long-term plans for collaborating with communities living near the forests? The other one is about the floods. Recently, the country experienced floods that left many stranded on account of ineffective rescue operations. If approved, how best would you collaborate with the relevant agencies to ensure rapid rescue operations during such incidents? Thank you.
Hold it, Duale. Mishi, let's take 2-2.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman. Honorable Chairman, before I raise my questions, I just want to ask the nominee just to clear some airs for the benefit of the public, because when His Excellency the President pronounced the list of the nominee, he was given the defense docket. But when the list came to the Parliament, he was under the environment, climate and forestry docket. So Kenyans are asking, is it maybe the President was doubting his ability and leadership capacity, or what was the reason? I just want him maybe to clear the murmurs by the public. My questions. My first question, in accordance with the fourth schedule.
Ask one, Mishi, so ask only another.
Yeah, in accordance with the fourth schedule of the Constitution, environmental conservation is a function of both the national and the county government. How are you going to ensure collaboration between those two governments, that is the national and the county government, so that you also avoid duplication of programs in terms of the same function? The last one, maybe it is how are you going to improve and maybe safeguard those Kenyans who are living or are located near the refinery and chemical plants, because there's a lot of pollution. Thank you.
Yes, nominee.
Even after this, in the event this committee approves me, and before even I'm appointed, the President has a prerogative right to assign me even another ministry. So he might even take me from environment to somewhere else, if this committee approves me. So Honorable Mishi, that is the powers of the President. After all of us are approved, in 1 week he can reshuffle, and maybe he might even take me back to defense, or foreign affairs, or even gender, or even youth affairs and sports. And I am ready, or education. I am ready to serve in any capacity that the President finds it, deems it right. The second one, I think, is a very good question. Environmental matters is devolved under the fourth schedule. And at the county level, we have a very good relationship. We have got the county environmental committees appointed by the governors. The chair, on behalf of the governor, is the CEC for environment. The secretary is our county director of NEMA. And that's how they work together with all the other multi-agency team. But soon, if this committee appoints me, we are trying to create now, and we hope if this committee appoints me, we are going to sign a more intergovernmental environmental framework between the Ministry of Environment, Climate Change and Forestry and the Council of Governors, where I will sign and the chair of the Council of Governors will sign. On grazing, Honorable Nyokapi, this is a very, very complex issue.
Honorable Mukami.
Mukami, my very good friend, the women rep of Nyeri County. Under the Forestry Act, we have created a very robust, because we cannot conserve, we cannot restore, we cannot manage our forest and our wetlands without the involvement of the communities and the citizens who live around those forests. So this house, in its wisdom in lawmaking, they created something called Community Forest Association. And these community forest associations are the ones who are supposed to guide at what part of the forest do people graze? How far do they graze? Do they graze where we have doing regeneration of the forest? So what are we doing to make sure that we don't have a conflict? And Mr. Speaker, in some of the forests, unfortunately, powerful people in government, in the private sector, who own thousands of livestock, graze in those forests. I'm sorry to say that. But if this House approves me and I become the minister, I want to do some key long-term plans. One, just to have to review the whole grazing management plans, how we can regulate the authorized grazing in our forest ecosystem, how we can fence off areas where we feel are very sensitive in the forest, that we don't allow our animals or our farmers to farm. And lastly, I think the forest community management regulation of 2016 has not been operationalized, and I'm going to operationalize with the approval of this House, because that will give them the rights. Mr. Speaker, the second question of Honorable Mukami, I didn't get it. If you can repeat it. Oh, yeah, it was about the floods. Yes. Mr. Speaker, climate change today is the biggest threat to humanity. I mean, you can see what's happening in India and Ethiopia in the last 1 week. Thousands of people have died because of the mudslide. You have seen the wildfires in California. You have seen the hurricanes, what they're doing, kind of destruction. And coming back home, the last 2 years, we had a severe drought that killed many livestock, affected our farmers, affected food security, destroyed, and then next after the drought, we had the floods, which again affected livelihoods, destroyed our infrastructure, roads, and farms, and livestock was swept away. So, and that's why, because of the climate change and all this, one of the issues why we're having 15 billion trees is to recover our forest ecosystem, restoration, regeneration, bring back our biodiversity. So, Mr. Speaker, I think I have tried to answer the questions of...
Honorable Chairman, point of order. question, how do we improve the health of communities which are living near a polluted site? I'm asking this because in my constituency, there is a plant built by Titanium Base who are doing some mining in Kwale, and there's no mitigation which has been done, and it's a residential area. That is why I was asking that question specifically.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I forgot to answer that question. Let me answer it. It's not only in Likoni. Mr. Speaker, we have a serious problem between how county governments enforce their physical planning and zoning of areas and the role of environmental institutions in making sure that zoning is respected. So, Speaker, even here in Nairobi, you'll find county governments with no regard to the law, to the Physical Planning Act, allowing industry and factories to be established in residential areas and bars and bring noise pollution. The same, you cannot have a refinery next to a residential area. The laws, the environmental laws, the Physical Planning Act, the Land Use Act, all those don't allow it. So, Mheshimiwa Mishi, this is because of corruption. And Mr. Speaker, that's why you see even skyscrapers are appearing next to each other, buildings which has no ventilation, they have no air, there's no sound, particularly in this cold weather of July. Your children will live in an apartment, they will never see the sun, they will never get the fresh air. So all this, Mr. Speaker, if I am confirmed, I want to assure this House, and governors must listen to me, and we are going to do an audit. NEMA is going to do an audit of all factories and industries which are established in residential areas, and we will revoke their licenses. There must be order. There must be respect for environment as we build our country.
Sharia, you'll pass.
Duale, you are the immediate former Cabinet Secretary for Defense. And defense in our country is a celebrated institution. As you move to environment, if the House confirms your nomination, what are some of the good things that you have seen in defense that you are likely to carry over? Secondly, is the issue of environment. I want to say without benefit of doubt, if the members of parliament are not used in planting trees, in conserving the environment, then that thing is bound to fail, and it will fail seriously. In northern Kenya, currently, the Northern Rangeland Trust, NGOs, are the ones that are being used for conservation, environmental support programs. But at the same time, we have left out KWS and forestry, which is a very serious omission. Going forward, maybe tell us what plans you may have so that institutions of government are not killed silently by non-governmental actors. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The nominee, Honorable Duale, karibu bunge tena. My question is that Kenya hosts one of the United Nations Environmental Office and Program in Nairobi at Gigiri. And the people of Kenya, especially at the grassroots level, I doubt whether they can fill this office, and it's a UN office. If approved by this August House, can you tell us how will you leverage on that status, and how will Kenyans fill this office and make a difference in our nation for the betterment of our environment? Thank you.
Nominee.
Thank you. What do I carry from defense? Of course, I'll not carry the guns, I'll not carry the arsenal and everything, but from a human resource part, I'll carry the discipline that I have learned in defense. I'll carry the order and implementation of task done very fast. I will carry the patriotism they have to the country, and I will carry the respect that they give to each other within the rank and the file, and the teamwork that we had at the defense. Those are things. Secondly, I think on the conservancy, Northern Trust, I think, is one of the biggest. There are many conservancies. Most of them, Mr. Speaker, they are not under my ministry, they are under the Ministry of Wildlife. They have airstrips. But I think working with the other ministries, and working with the leaders, working with the stakeholders, even working with some of our security agents, we need to have a conversation on how these conservancies, and particularly members of parliament from the Asal region, on how these conservancies are run, how they are managed, what is the benefit to the communities, how will they behave when there is a conflict, particularly during the drought. Our animals, the animals of the people in the Asal, when there is a lack of water and pasture, they enter. Honorable Asuda will agree with me in Samburu, there's a lot of conflict. So I think we need to have a more bigger conversation. We need to discuss about the carbon market, how much they are getting, the Northern Trust Fund, vis-a-vis, are they implementing the 40% that the law and the regulations give to the people? Honorable Mule, we are a very privileged country. We are a very privileged because we host UNEP and UN Habitat. These are the only UN agencies in the global south. So it's a big privilege and honor for our country. And in fact, that's why in some quarters, Nairobi is called the environmental capital of the world. And it's the only UN body. And this is where you have the expertise, the knowledge, the pool of experts, the top world experts on environment are based in Nairobi. They advise governments very, very far away from Nairobi. As Kenyans, as a minister for nominee for environment, I want to assure you that that proximity we have to this institution, it must work in our favor. We must use the skilled labor. We must use the experts that we have. We must use the data they have to build our own environmental data. We must use them to build the capacity and the skills of our staff in our country, in the midst of environment. We must do technology and skill transfer from the men and women who work. And as the focal ministry to UNEP, I want to assure this committee that I will work very, very, very closely with them. And I'll work also very, very closely with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the two ambassadors, or the ambassador who is second or posted to UNEP and UN Habitat. I'll work with them, that we must make sure that this important institution help us. We are trying to build, lastly, what we call the State of the Environment Report. The State of the Environment Report, a very important report that will come to Parliament. We must leverage on the skills, on the experts who work and who come from globally at the United Nations Environmental Program and UN Habitat.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Nominee Aden Duale, you know, the Ministry of Environment requires a no-nonsense CS like Mishuki. You know, remember when Mishuki went to transport, he cleaned up the public transport system, And when he went to environment, he actually cleaned up Nairobi River. You could even drink the water then. But after he left, he just went back to the bad old days. Now, for us to be able to gauge your suitability, it is important that we make reference to the position that you have held, which we are aware of. And so I have two questions based on your suitability, based on your experience, your past experience. First one is corruption in the recruitment of military officers. You have been in the docket of defense, and from yesterday there was a lot of discussion about how much Kenyans have to pay so that their sons or daughters are recruited into the military. What did you do about these menace when you are CS for defense? And secondly, in the recent demos, when Kenyans were exercising their constitutional rights under Article 37, the military was deployed to Kenyan streets via Gazette Notice 7861, signed by you on 25th of June 2024. Now, unlike police that use tear gas, canisters, batons, rubber bullets, water cannons, the military is known for live bullets, grenades, assault rifles, tankers, and bombs. Now, what was the intention behind sending the military to the streets? Was there a plan to shoot to kill demonstrators?
Mr. Speaker, I'm not John Michuki, but I will be like John Michuki. I can assure the member that I'll try my best. Nairobi River Commission used to be under the Minister of Environment. Now is not under me. It's under the Deputy President. But we need to deal with the Nairobi River Commission. The pollution that is going on in Nairobi River Commission, Nairobi rivers, because of the dysfunctional sewage system, which needs to be upgraded. The dumping sites of Nairobi County, all of them, including Dandora, are on Nairobi and Nairobi rivers. So the governor of Nairobi, at some stage, and I hope he will listen to me if I'm appointed, he has to look for other dumping sites outside the Nairobi River Causeway, Rivers Causeway. So coming to military recruitment, I agree with you, it's a systemic issue. And I was watching yesterday, the speaker said, the president himself is concerned. But we have agreed before I left the Ministry of Defense that going forward, before the next recruitment, we must sit, we must have a conversation. The way the speaker said yesterday, I was watching him, we must communicate candid to the public, and we must deal with that monster. It cannot be a situation where a few people are taken to court-martialed. Kenyans, in their mind, are saying, for you to join the military, and based on the national security sections, it's supposed to be the face of Kenya. Kenyans, for them to join the military, they must pay between 400 to 500,000. I think that is unacceptable. If more, that's unacceptable, and it's part of the corruption that I was telling you, which is I think all of us together, the citizens themselves, the anti-corruption agencies, all of us together, we must face on. Why did I deploy KDF? I did not deploy KDF. The framers of the Constitution put Article 241, 3B, and 3C in the Constitution. So Kenya Defense Forces are in the streets. They are in Boni Forest, fighting Al-Shabaab. They are in North Rift, making sure that we deal with the banditry. They were in Westgate during the terror attack. They were in Garissa University during the terror attack, where we lost many people. So for peace, public order, public safety, where the police are overwhelmed, Article 241, 3B kicks in. The function of the Minister for Defense, by then me, is once the article kicks in, then I am supposed to do certain subsidiary legislation. I gazette, And Mr. Speaker, all of us know Article 132 of the Constitution obligates the President to protect the other arms of government. He is the chair of the National Security Council. That day, the Office of the Chief Justice and the Supreme Court, as an institution, was under threat, under attack. Parliament and the colleagues sitting here, if KDF did not come to assist the other security agents, God forbid, many members of Parliament could have died, including our Speaker. Parliament could have been burnt. I will not be that irresponsible as a Minister of Defense with a provision of the Constitution. Provision of the Constitution, I used the law. And then the House went further the next morning, because it was going on a very long recess. They invoked Article 241(3)(c). But when LSK went to court, Justice Mugambi, and I don't want to discuss more because the matter is still in court, gave orders that I should give and gazette and do a new gazette on the terms of engagement, on how many places, and I said in the 47 places. Ours was to protect key institutions. Parliament is a symbol of democracy and governance. It is the home of the people's representatives. Mr. Speaker, all my life in Parliament, people used to come and present petitions. And any member of Parliament who's outside, near the gate, used to receive and take it to the office of the clerk or the office of the Speaker. I have never seen where people want to come and ban Parliament. So I think I want to thank the framers of the Constitution. I participated, the Speaker participated, many other members participated. I think it's today and that day, 25th of June, I realized how important Article 241(3)(b) and (c) is.
Owen?
Duale, just one question. That this country envisages to have a nuclear plant in a place called Uyombo in Kilifi County. Without due regard to the environmental issues in question, like the delicate ecosystem, the people, and the environment, Honorable Duale, going forward, if you are given this opportunity, how do you intend to treat this threat to the people of Uyombo in terms of nuclear plant in their radioactivity materials and nuclear waste and the hazards that come with nuclear installations? Just that my question. Thank you.
Thank you. It's the same thing I was saying. How did the county government of Kilifi give land? So I want to assure you and this House and the people of Kilifi, if I am confirmed, it will be the first thing I'm going to do, go to that site, make sure all the environmental impact assessments are done, the people have participated, their views collected. And the Speaker, environment is very key. I said Article 70 of the Constitution says, if a citizen feels that his rights have been curtailed in an environmental matter, it says go to the court. Public participation is very important. I will be the first person. I won't wait for you to send, if I'm approved, to summon me to Parliament on Wednesday morning. I'll do it. It will be on my table. I'll deal with it.
Murugara?
Honorable Duale, there is a very bad scenario that is faced countrywide, especially as regards our riverine areas and the rivers themselves emanating from Mount Kenya, Aberdares, whereby almost half the year now they are drying up. We are told the reasons is environmental degradation, but also climate change is blamed. As human beings, we cannot sit pretty. We must have policies in place to ensure that these rivers do not disappear forever. What policies are you likely to put in place to ensure that we recover these rivers, which are actually the bottom line of our livelihoods?
Thank you, Honorable Murugara.
Ferdinand?
Mr. Duale, if you are actually confirmed by this committee, first of all, I want to thank you, and I will tell you that I think that I've witnessed extensive planting of efforts by the ministry in which you have been assigned. Now, to ensure that we retain that, I just want to ask you if it's possible. Instead of actually interfering with the planting, what have you, in agriculture areas, is it possible, are you able to agree with me that you can now plant trees along the roads? I say this because I went to Denmark and I was surprised. The roads are all covered because we are about 6 meters from the center. And that is an area that I think we can plant trees in all these areas. Secondly, and lastly, I come from slopes of Mount Elgon. I can tell you, when I was growing up, that area, forest was very thick. And it was actually an attraction of the rains. Today, it's being cleared. So what are you going to do if you get this opportunity as a Minister for Environment? What do you want to do to save Mount Elgon? And of course, I don't know about Mount Kenya and other places. Mount Elgon, where I saw thick forests being cleared now. What are you going to do?
Nominee?
Honorable Speaker, let me start with Honorable Murugara. Yes, even at the downstream of where I come from, Garissa, Tana River, you'll find the water level of Tana River, getting it from Aberdares, Mount Kenya and all that, is reducing. And I agree with you. It's all about environmental degradation. And that's why these 15 billion trees will help us to restore, to regenerate our forests. Forests play a very key role in making sure that our rivers have enough water, they are safe, they're sound. But there's another element where people have put big farms, flower farms, upstream, and use the water. So the water, in fact, is reduced because of human activity in the agriculture. And I think that should be another conversation that we will need to have. Honorable Wanyonyi, yes, roads is part of the, in these 15 billion trees. We have talked to the Ministry of Transport and the Ministry of Roads that going forward, construction of roads, mainly even in the highways, the contractor is obligated to plant trees and nurture them until they grow as part of the contract. You have seen and you have gone in many of the Western world during mainly summer. You think you are driving in a highway, but both sides of the road is forested. This can be done, and we have agreed with the President and the other stakeholders even before I came to environment. That should be one. And the contractors, it becomes part of their contract. Even now, we can still tell the contractors who are maintaining the roads, now we have a maintenance aspect, so that they can do it. Mount Elgon is part of why we should increase from 12.3% to 30% by 20. In all our wetlands, we have 11,000 wetlands. We have 8.8 forest cover. For us to increase, I think we will pick on Mount Elgon and all the areas which have been degraded, we will start doing the restoration and afforestation programs under the 15 billion presidential program.
Dawood?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to talk about recycling, but we have a problem with recycling that the refuse collection which is done poorly, and then it is gone and put into our forests and wetlands. What will he do if he is confirmed? Secondly, you have talked about CFAs. There are agreements of CFAs, Community Forest Associations, whereby my predecessor, long time back, Honorable David Muiraria, the late, he had introduced the shamba system, where people could go and take care of the trees in the forest, as well as do shambas, plant and take care. because there is a problem in our forest nominee, because there is lantana shrub. I don't know if you have heard of lantana. And that shrub, you cannot remove it. It's so expensive to remove. And the forest associations do remove it when they are planting. And I believe the Ministry of Forestry cannot remove it because the funds are not available. What would you think about that? You talked about noise pollution. That's the last one for the speaker. You talked about noise pollution, and NEMA is in charge. But Honorable Duale, you know, NEMA, it's like as if it does not have teeth. Because there is noise pollution from bars, from nightclubs, from religious institutions as well. And it's a menace. So how will you handle it if NEMA do not handle it? Thank you.
Mary Massey.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman. My concern is still on waste. No, waste is a nuisance. I'm wondering what mechanisms or interventions you intend to employ to address the menace of waste, so that we convert it from being a nuisance to a resource. Recycle, reuse, produce, regenerate energy, name it, because it is a real issue. Outline for us those interventions that you will employ. Secondly, I want to pick it from the question that was asked by Honorable Mbui on corruption. You've said yourself, corruption is killing our country. And I remember when we interviewed you on your first nomination, we still raised this issue of corruption in recruitment of officers to KDF. And you promised us here that you're going to deliver. But Honorable Duale, I put it to you that you disappointed the country. During that time, the amount that was being paid was between 300 to 400. But during your time, you presided over an increase from now for 300 to 400 to 700 to 1 million. And as representatives of the people, our constituents report this to us. At some point, even efforts to reach you were not fruitful. You could not pick our calls. So now, my question is, why should we trust you? Why should we believe you? Why should we believe that you are not going to transfer this corruption to the Ministry of Environment? Because even there is recruitment of forest wardens. You need to assure Kenyans that you will do something when you get to the Ministry of Environment. Lastly, Honorable Chairman.
The last two.
On deforestation.
Okay.
There's a lot of felling of trees, even in public forests. We are saying let us plant trees. Let us plant. But what are we doing about deforestation? Can I ask the last one that have been requested by the public?
Go ahead.
A member of the public has asked me to ask Honorable Duale, what is your connection with the Juja International Abattoir in Murima in Juja? It has environmental wastage. I don't know what that means. Probably you can give your thoughts on that. Thank you.
Let me start with something Murima Juja. Maybe the people who I sell my fattened bulls take to many slaughterhouse. If they buy and take it to our slaughterhouse, that is the only relationship I have. I don't own slaughterhouse. I sell to Farmers Choice. I sell to Kenya Meat Commission. I am a very serious livestock keeper. And I do what we call feedlot. Two, so ask that person, maybe he's looking for another Duale. Let me answer about recruitment. I refuse to pick your call and many other people's calls because of corruption. It's because of the corruption. You wanted me to employ for you people. And many members of parliament will agree with me when even they send me text. I said, please go to the nearest sub-county recruitment center. So I'm very sorry, Honorable Mercy, if I didn't pick your call, I was scared you'll ask me to recruit somebody for you. And that is the level of how I abhor corruption. Two, I think when I went, is the only recruitment that I did under my leadership. The only one. And the speaker said it's a systemic. Systemic. It was
Okay, inform me.
but Speaker, I must agree if I want to be informed.
Okay, point of order.
I remember the standing orders.
I know.
Point of order, Speaker.
Let's hear her.
My call, Honorable Speaker, I was calling the Honorable CS to seek clarification with respect to the concerns that were raised by my constituents, that those who were successful and had reported to the training camp were being chased away over flimsy reasons. And I think I can quote, one of my constituents was told that his testicles are not equal. That is why he's being dismissed or returned from the training camp. So I wanted to seek clarification from the CS to tell me what are the guidelines for one to be recruited. Somebody who is successful, he has already reported and is being chased away. I wanted it to secure that law so that my constituents did not lose it as a representative of the people of Texas.
Mr. Speaker.
Oh, yes, what's your point of
Honestly,
order? Okay, Mary.
It was very sad indeed. And my constituent lost that slot because I could not get the CS to clarify.
We hear you. Yes.
In fact, I had to look for a chairman of a committee to call the CS on my behalf because I thought because I'm a small person, he can't pick mine.
You are an
He actually
MP.
picked, but I was not helped. I was not helped. I am speaking on behalf of the people of Teso South.
Good. But you are very...
Kenyans, yes. And it did not only happen to Teso South. Many Kenyans were returned from the training camp. And we are told those slots were sold again to some waiting rich guys with 1,700,000. It cannot continue. And we made it very clear to the CS nominee for defense that it should not repeat itself next time.
Yes, Junet.
And that issue has been rampant, people complaining. But the only thing I'm wondering with is if the CS of defense by then could do measurement of testicles. It's what I don't know. That's what I don't know.
Mr. Speaker, let me, because Mr. Speaker, let me make it very clear that the grounds given for the rejection of that recruit from Teso South is valid. Next year, if such a person comes, he will not be recruited into the Kenya Defense Force. Mr. Speaker, Kenya Defense Forces recruitment is different from the recruitment of the police. When people are recruited at the sub-counties and they come, a very serious medical checks takes place. A number of people are sent because of medical ailments. And I think the former Vice Chief of Defense...
unequal testicles ailments.
Yeah, there were people...
Women can know that, Chair.
Mr. Speaker, I think, if you allow me to finish, there are many. The testicle that I want to go to is one of them. There are many, and the chairman of defense will agree. They measure...
Point of order.
Let me finish before the point of order. Mr. Speaker, there are many colleagues, there are many leaders who sent me why their person has been chased. And in 10 minutes, the leadership of KDF could give me 1, 2, 3, 4 reasons, the measurements including. So I am sure the next, not only on this. So, Mr. Speaker, there are certain criteria. There are many, and those who leave, they are not replaced. And I think let us not discuss, with your permission, the Kenya Defense Forces in a very negative. They have a special place in that. But the chairman of defense can call the generals in camera And you are now talking about testicles. They will tell you something about even the teeth. They will tell you many things. And some of these things is because when you go, the training of the Kenya Defense Forces is so vigorous that you don't risk to take somebody who will die in the course of the training. So don't compare it with how the police are trained. Don't compare it with how the Kenya prisoners are trained. But I am sure the information, the reasons why many, including my sister, Mheshimiwa Mary Emase. And please, going forward, if it was in camera, Mr. Speaker, I will even tell you more. But now that it's in public, I don't want to say more.
What's your point of order?
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. You know, the issue raised by Mase is something that is out there in the public. Many Kenyans complaining about. Sometimes they think those are flimsy reasons why they are not taken. And I could understand maybe someone has squinted eyes because of shooting and, you know, flat foot, maybe because of running. I'm really wondering why, if what work testicles would really have to do with joining the disciplined forces. So I don't think we should belabor, but don't take it lightly that there are Kenyans who are raising concerns on the reasons why they are not taken to disciplined forces.
Point of order. Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir. With tremendous respect to Honorable Duale. And let the Army hear this. It's very important. We know the historical background of the set pieces that were given in the Army recruitment, including teeth. It is there to bite bullets at a certain point in time in history. Today, they do not bite bullets. That's why you hear that saying, you will have to bite the bullet, because the Indians were refusing to do it. So you had to have teeth so that you could bite the bullet. We required tall people so that they would see enemies from a distance. Today, you don't have to do that. Because if that was the case, the Chinese and the Japanese would have a challenge. Eventually, such things became disqualified. I think the whole code needs to be revised so that we do not have human rights abuses. But they are not even abuses. They are excuses that the Army is using so that it is able to bar some Kenyans from joining the forces, and, as we are saying, so that other people can actually get the slots. So surely the Army must open up on this.
Point.
Thank you.
Let's not escalate this. Okay. For avoidance of doubt, Honorable Duale, I also have a child who was sent away for exactly the same reasons as Mary Masses.
Excellency, I think just to give the way forward.
Not my child, but not my son, but a child in my neighborhood.
Your Excellency, yes. Speaker, you have, because of...
And you remember I told you about it.
Yes, I think the leaders are raising...
Yes, Dawood, what is it?
You know, we have talked about men only, but even women are discriminated against. When they do a test, pregnancy test, they do not have anything. But once they go there, I don't know where it comes from, they have a pregnancy. And it's not true.
Anyway, let the nominee answer the question, yes, and we move to something else.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, because the leaders are raising very important, and they don't have the information. Mr. Speaker, under your direction, we have a very robust, good leader, head of the military health department called Major General Nganga, through the chair of defense. I think you can call him to Akamkunji, and he lists the conditions which disqualifies. I think because what these are raising is public knowledge. Even I think they should even go to the media, and they should sensitize the public. And I think is something we have discussed.
Focus on your environment.
So, no, let me go to. I'm no longer there, so yes. Yes, next minister will deal with it if approved. Yes. Speaker, Honorable Dawood talked about waste management. Waste management is a serious issue in our country. Mr. Speaker, why do I say so? The law is there, the regulations are there, county governments are not enforcing. NEMA, waste management in the first place, Mr. Speaker, is a devolved function. All that as we do is to support in terms of regulatory powers. But waste management will be something, if I'm approved, that I will take it seriously. From our homes, to the trucks that carry, to the dam sites, the Dandora dam site, the one in Kachok, I think called in Kisumu, the whole environment is polluted, the air is polluted, the water is polluted. The law says you must color the bags, you must differentiate from the homes. Our homes have a responsibility. There must be designated bins in all our public places. So, Speaker, one of the things that I want to introduce, if you approve me, is that even public transport must have a bin in the buses. You know, public places like even the Parliament must have those two different. In the malls, there must be different bins, the one for the organic wet, the one for the dry. But public waste management, which is a devolved function, Mr. Speaker, is an area that I think we need to deal with.
A nightmare.
A nightmare. Number two, I think the Shamba system, the community forest association are working very well. Some are abusing the law. We have now put in place what we call the community forest association management plan, where they will help us which part of the forest with a proper plan they can graze, and which part of the forest they will help us and protect, and we will use.
But are you aware that your predecessor announced that there will be a Shamba system, and shortly thereafter she said it will not?
That I think, I don't want to indict my
Do you recall that?
Yes, I recall.
Yes.
But Shamba system or grazing or farming in forest by communities around under the Community Forest Association, which is in law, is about management, is about coexistence. We cannot regenerate, we cannot reforest, we cannot protect our forest if we leave the communities aside. I'll give you a very good example. Karura Forest. Karura Forest is not managed by Kenya Forest Service. Karura Forest, the way you see it, the way it's managed, is run by Community Forest Association, and they're doing a very good work. Noise pollution.
Do you consider allowing that kind of engagement in plantation forests and not natural forests?
Yes, yes, because we have got 150,000 hectares of plantation forest, which now we have put proper transparency and integrity measures and tendering system, unlike the old system where there was allocation by the big people in government. I think I totally agree with you. Community Forest Association, community living around must be given an opportunity, particularly where even a plantation has been removed, for them, as we plant, for them to plant and for them to farm. In fact, farming can be well done under the plantation, Mr. Speaker. Coming to noise pollution, Mr. Speaker, is another serious thing. But again, it's a devolved function. It's a county function. They have no capacity. All they do is they give license to bus, they give license to clubs, and they don't choose which neighborhood. There are people who have got sick people in their homes. There are people who have children who are doing homework. There are people who want to sleep early. But today you'll find bars and clubs in the residential area. Mr. Speaker, we will not leave that to county governments. We will enforce it. NEMA will enforce it. We will not allow noise pollution to take place in residential areas. The whole zoning, the whole land use system, even the land use system that the county government, has violated, must be brought back. So noise pollution is key, and we are going to deal with it, but it's a default function. I think, Honorable Mayor, I must say I have discussed about the waste management.
Let's go to Gikaria.
Waste management I have done. Reforestation, we are doing very well with the 15 billion tree planting program that we have.
Gikaria.
Thank you, Chair. Being a chair of the Environment and Forestry Committee, the departmental committee, just for purposes of future reference on what the nominee is saying. But, Honourable Chair, I have two issues. One is about the 15 billion trees, are very ambitious. program, but the scientists and a few of the experts are also arguing in terms of forest fires. Assuming we have the 15 billion trees, and only half of that, God forbid, catches fire. So what are the plans that the nominee will take into consideration when he will be, if nominated? What plans do you have to address forest fires? Secondly, and I don't want to belabor on the pollution that has been spoken about, Honorable Chair, most of our schools and other institutions from the colonial times have been using asbestos for purposes of roofing. And asbestos over the time have been a cause of cancer and environmental pollution. Maybe what plans are there for the nominee to address the use of asbestos in, that are in our schools, health institutions, and so many other places? Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Speaker. Mine to begin with is, Speaker, I was looking at the resume for the CV of the nominee, and the CV has given a lot of hope to many Kenyans, professionals, that it's not only that you must come from Nairobi University that you can be nominated as a minister.
Which one is Nairobi University?
Almost every nominee,
It's
Honorable
called
Speaker.
the University of Nairobi, isn't it? Nairobi University.
Honorable Speaker, I thank you and I respect. I'll go your direction, but I will call it Nairobi University or University of Nairobi. But almost every nominee, Honorable Speaker, and I think this is good for record, for future, that people who have been to other universities, Moi University, Kenyatta University, all the people, Honorable Speaker, that I have seen is only Nairobi University. There is Nairobi University, Nairobi, almost everybody. Until when I was saying,
Kindiki came from Moi University.
it's only one. It's actually a rare species. With this one, there are only two. Everybody else, Honorable Speaker, and I think it's good for record that other universities, graduates from other universities, are qualified to become also nominees of ministers and even ahead of. It should not be Nairobi University, Nairobi University. What about Kenyatta University? What about Moi University? And so on and so forth. I thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I will use the questions asked by other members to judge the suitability of the candidate. I thank you, Speaker.
Mine is.
You have any questions or don't answer?
Honorable Duale is telling us to plant trees, but yet Kenya Power on the other side is busy felling trees. There's a trend in this country that Kenya Power has decided that it is actually going to bring down trees. Nairobi is awash with very hoary situation of trees that have been felled by Kenya Power, very recklessly, some very old indigenous trees. Honorable Duale, what will you do so that this cross purpose by government is immediately stopped? Number two is the Mau forest. The Mau ecosystem has become a problem. Successive governments have not been able to deal with the situation. There's a lot of the human activity, and it is because of settlement of people living around Mau forest. What will you do to make sure that the people who've been moved out of Mau forest are resettled?
We start with the asbestos. Mr. Speaker, asbestos is a serious matter. Asbestos produces something called fiber that leads to lung cancer. And Mr. Speaker, we have mapped out, the ministry has mapped out, NEMA has mapped out 4 ministries who their institutions still have asbestos since independence. The Ministry of Defense, you go to our barracks in Lanet and everywhere, Ministry of Interior, Ministry of Education, many schools, and Ministry of Lands and Housing.
And the churches.
I'm just first talking for government.
Yes.
So Speaker, we have given, and health, we have given government entities until if you approve me December 2024, they must remove. And NEMA has put in place a program on how to dispose those asbestos. We expect county governments to give us land, field. Secondly, and more important, Mr. Speaker, now that we come to churches and other now individual private citizens, within the next 3 months, if this committee approves me, we will also do an audit and map the whole country where asbestos roof is still in place. It's a dangerous thing, it's a threat to our health, and it is a cause of lung cancer, Mr. Speaker. I think on the 15 billion, Honorable Gikaria, it is not over-ambitious. We have to do it, and that's why the people of Kenya, in their own wisdom, have preserved environment in the preamble of the Constitution, in articles of the Constitution, whether we like it or not, in our own homes, in our farms, in the roads. Each and every citizen must take a responsibility of planting and trees and be part and parcel of this regeneration, reforestation, tree planting, increasing our tree cover, increasing our forest cover, and be at par with our neighbor Ethiopia. Honorable Koech, I agree with you. They cut my trees. And when I went home, the Speaker, I asked, but the lines were just too thin. They should have cut only a branch. Yes. But, Mr. Speaker, I think we are lacking, and we are going to introduce, if you allow me, if you approve me, I want to introduce something called urban forestry planning and urban green spaces. As we sit here, there's no even stakeholder. This Ministry of Forestry and KPLC and the people who are in the road agencies and others, there is nothing called urban forestry planning. We must plan for our green spaces in urban cities. We must plan for our trees in urban cities. Every citizen plants trees. They buy from, they have seen on the road. And then an entity called Kenya Power Lighting cannot. Speaker, I will introduce what is happening in India. In India, you can't cut a tree, even in your own homestead, before you plant another one. You need to go and get a permit. You say, I am going to cut a tree in my house, but I'm going to replace, and I have planted it, and you show evidence. Secondly, even if you have half an acre in India, you must tell the planners, the county, that 20% of my compound is for tree planting, is for forest.
Nominee.
And yes, so I think those are the
We were with you in this parliament when we passed the Forest Act. And among the salient features was that each and every owner of land in Kenya, both private and public, must plant a minimum of 10% of that land with trees. You remember? Yes. How are you going to enforce that?
Give me the job, I will implement. It's the law. I'm not reinventing the wheel.
It's not unique to India.
Yeah.
We have it in our statutes.
Yeah. India, in fact, the Speaker, is 30%, but we start with 10%.
Ours was 10%.
But, Honorable Koech, I want to categorically tell you that if this House approves me, the first meeting that we're going to have with the KPLC, with the road agencies, with the other people who provide social amenity facilities, that they cannot come and cut trees, anyhowly, without due regard to the law. On Mount Forest, Speaker, Mount Forest, you know the history of Mount Forest. It has consumed people politically. And I don't want, because I will not be, I'm not in politics, but it has consumed many people. But I want to urge my colleague, and I'll sit with the communities around that place. Because even today, the biggest problem we have is Mount Forest, where a lot of illegal grazing is taking place, and that illegal grazing is taking place by very powerful people who are in position. it's not the ordinary citizens. But still, we will use the community forest association provided in law on how we manage Mao. We have fenced a greater part of Mao, and we will fence, once we get resources, the other part. Fencing is the way to go to conserve our forest, Mr. Speaker and members.
Naisula.
Thank you, Chairman. Interacted with Honorable Duale in the National Assembly as a majority leader then. It will be important to know your position or what you think about public servants engaging in politics, whether actively, in what you say, in what you do. What is your thought on that, including public servants participating in Harambees? I would like to know what your position is on that is, so that we know whether if someone wants to be a public servant, then you be a public servant. If you want to be a politician, you go back to politics. And I want to put it to you on the same breath, and even to Kenyans who are watching, that the beauty of vetting is not only to find the nominees to be suitable, but also to hold you to account in case we find you suitable and other nominees as a country and as a parliament. And on that, because you have said you have warned illegal forests, land encroachers, you will revoke titles on top state officials who are holding. It's actually now on 411. You can be sure Kenyans will hold you to account, because you know there's something that always follows you on that Al-Shabaab list to date. So just know that even this will follow you. I'm just saying that this will also follow you if we find you suitable. But on matters environment, very quickly, while sustainable logging may be healthy for forests, how will you ensure the ban on protected indigenous trees is enforced and that close monitoring is allowed during logging? Because the Kenya Forest Service only devised a plan for access, control, monitoring, and reporting actual harvesting. However, there is no established framework and procedure to monitor, verify, and audit millers' compliance with licenses and permits to avoid double allocation. How will you ensure that we don't log our indigenous trees? And finally, the staffing at KFS is not adequate. How will you ensure that you put mechanisms for using aerial, GPS, guided harvesting technologies to monitor forest resources and logging activities? Thank you.
Nominee.
Mr. Speaker, public servants, me included if I'm approved by this House, I'll take whatever it takes to promote, to expound, to communicate government agenda, government achievements to the people of Kenya, whether I'm in Samburu with Honorable Lesuda. So I serve the government of the day, and I'll speak for the government of the day. And I think that is what public servants should do. Public servants should not get involved in the local politics, in the county politics. They're supposed to be unifying factors, in fact, to the contrary. It's supposed to bring people together. For people to buy government agenda and for you to succeed in implementing government policies and achievements and programs, you need leaders across the political divide, and more so those who are elected and those who are the community leadership. The 411, the one on Al-Shabaab was fake news. But this one, please hold me accountable. I am one person who believes in accountability, Mr. Speaker. In the last 2 years, you and the clerk and the chairs of various committees will agree, I have been diligent when I'm called upon to Parliament, either to its committee, to the plenary, and the only time I refused to pick telephones, God forbid, was when during the recruitment. And that one I've given good reason. But I talk to members. And I am one person who respects the legislature, I respect the judiciary, and I respect people in public service. So I am ready. And please protect me when I cancel title deeds, when I do actions that is in the interests of the people of Kenya and the citizens and the country, Mr. Speaker, as our leader, please, if people want to bring impeachment to fight me, you must help me and protect me, if that is the case. The Harambee, Mr. Speaker, I'm a person who believes in Harambee. I think I have built more mosques and madrasas, and charity is a cardinal principle in my religion. Every year, in fact, this month is the month of Zakah in the Islamic calendar. This month I'm paying from what I have, and Honorable Junaid will agree with me. So Zakah can be Harambee. You'll see in my form that I have presented the number of madrasa of women in Garissa. Close to 5,000 women are in Islamic madrasa, courtesy of the charity I did through Harambee. I am sure there is a bill the leader of majority is going to bring. Those of us who believe in the Almighty God, that whatever He gives you, you must share. I really want to urge you, when that bill comes, let's regulate it. There are people who abuse it. Recipients abuse it. Others abuse it. They use the money, stolen, corruption for Harambee, for other things. But let us, particularly, let us regulate that you can help the poor person who could not pay school fees in Samburu, in Garissa, in Eldoret, that you can finance through your own resources that God has given you, the good medical care clinic that Honorable Deputy Speaker did to many people. So I don't think whether we can close Harambee, but it's good we regulate it. And I think most of us who sit here every weekend and in our life as leaders, we have, God has blessed us because of that. I think logging. I think logging plantation, I said 150,000 hectares are made of plantation in our forest. There used to be the culture, Mr. Speaker, when you were minister, you remember, it used to be, what do you call it, allocation. Tied with corruption. Who is who? The really sawmillers were not getting it. The really people in the timber industry were not getting it. Mr. Speaker, that has stopped. Now, we have a segment for the local sawmillers within that forest, I think up to about 40%. Then we have another 60%. Then we have 40% for the other national sawmillers. But all this must be done through a proper, transparent procurement system, which is on our website, on the website of Kenya Forest Service, and each and every Kenyan will be given, Mr. Speaker. Corruption will not be there when it comes to logging. And then last, I think, is technology. Honorable Lesuda, if you want us, of course, we want to increase our staff. We want to even use technology. We want to use drone to plant trees. We go to a forest, we see the degraded area, we use a drone that can do 2 million seeds in 1 hour. That technology is what we want to monitor our forest, to help our forest adjutants, to help our forest rangers, technology. But all this needs resources, and as a member of the Budget Committee, when Honorable Chair of Environment, Honorable Gikaria come, please support us.
Honorable Duale, if it is suitable to take this position, I want to urge you, take a helicopter and fly around all public forests and see the level of destruction going on. You will see what looks like a forest by the roadside. A kilometer inside, there's no forest. Charcoal poachers, illegal grazers, illegal loggers. It is bad business. We encourage you, in the event you find favor with this committee and be appointed the Minister for Environment, environmental degradation has been classified as an existential threat to not only Kenya but the rest of humanity. At least go down in history as a man who saved Kenya. Go to schools, teach children how to plant trees and live with trees. If a child goes to standard 1 and is given 2 trees to adopt, by the time they leave standard 4, 5, the tree is mature. Leta maji kidogo, mwagilia asubuhi. When you come to school, you check if your tree is safe. Very simple things. Because you talked of forest cover and tree cover. So the two will help us aggregate forests, enforce the Forest Act. If you go around the country and we want you to tell Kenyans what you are going to do, all our wetlands are being drained by farmers. There are small swamps that aggregate to a lot of wetlands in this country. They are all being subdivided, fenced, and drained away. What are you going to do about this? Because you have the law backing you to gazette all these as public assets. And if the owners contest, compensate them, but protect them so that we can have a better environment. In the case you find favor of this committee, what are you going to do to protect the environment and the forests of Kenya?
Mr. Speaker, as you said, we have 11,000 wetlands. And the legal regime and the necessary laws are in place. I want to commit to you that we will protect, if this committee approves me, we will protect our wetlands. Secondly, even the 150 billion trees that we are to plant, the best place to plant is in our wetlands. Because in the wetlands, we don't need water. In the wetlands, we don't wait for the rains to plant. So even the 150 billion, we will start with our 11,000 wetlands found in all our 47 counties. But I agree with you, the forest that we see inside is a hollow. There is illegal grazing. There is corruption also between these illegal people doing either grazing or logging with our officers. We will take whatever it takes that there is accountability even within the over 6,000 forest rangers who have been mandated, who are paid by the taxpayers to protect our forest and our wetlands.
Citizen who has sent me a message to ask you that on Mount Kenya, Mount Elgon, Mount Longonot, there are climbers who do that activity regularly, carrying food, drinks, and all manner of things. He's asking whether, if you are approved to be the minister, you will provide facilities on those climbing paths of toilets and bins for depositing litter. Because they say those climbers have got no toilet facilities, and you know what that means. And is that water that percolates down for human use? There's nowhere to throw litter, so there's litter everywhere. And this, I think, this Kenyan must be an environmentalist. Yes.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, even their facilities.
Owen Bayer wants to add to that.
I have received something here that probably interest you. I'll ask Honorable Duale in regard to camels from northeastern region contributing to land degradation by wandering all over Taita Taveta throughout the year, contributing to hunger and poverty.
Quick one, Speaker, the last one. I can ask Honorable Duale regarding any plans to stop pharmaceutical companies and other companies who are dumping waste in the sea in Mombasa. Recently, needles were found during the cyclone that was going on there.
Robert?
Yeah, thank you. There is also a gentleman from Kitui County called Mr. Paul Mutua who says that there is concerns of insecurity in Mwingi and Kitui along the Kitui-Tana River border of an invasion of armed nomadic herders with camels in the area. Can Honorable Duale deny or acknowledge he has more than 100 camels in that area and that is also causing insecurity?
Yes.
Can I ask a hypothetical question?
No, just answer them one by one.
No,
Start with
just
the climbers.
before that.
Okay.
If you allow me, I want to ask a hypothetical question. In the Parliamentary Appointment Act, the public have a timeline of 7 days to submit all their concerns. Is it...
Honorable Duale,
yes,
the public have 7 days to submit a memorandum that on oath that is either exposing something against you, something adverse on you, but when members are here and a member of the public sends a question, that is a legitimate addition to what we are doing.
Mr. Speaker, I cannot talk for
because
camel herders.
Yes.
Camel herders in Kitui County. I am a camel owner, and you'll see it in my list of assets.
Yes.
And my camels are in between Isiolo and Garissa County. But there's a historical notion by the leadership of Kitui, Machakos, that the problem of insecurity and camels in Kitui is not something that started today. It is their cherry pick. It's every time they speak, they do that. So I can only speak for my camels. They're in Garissa.
Talk about your camels.
And next time, Mr. Speaker, when you have time, they're doing very well. So I'll take you there. You have a history with Balambala.
Yes.
So you go see your client.
Correct.
And see my camels. Secondly, the same with Taveta. I have no camels in Taveta, so, and I don't know which camels are in Taveta.
That raises the matter.
That raises the matter. On pharmaceutical...
Let him answer. Let him finish with...
On the pharmaceutical, yes, I agree. NEMA has a very strong enforcement...
Hold on, Duale. What's your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, why is it that all camels that are traversing the country, people think belong to Honorable Duale? And there are many camel owners like us.
Simply because he carries the tag as a senior leader from the region. So people associate everything from the region with the leader.
And the Speaker, I am ready now and in the future to carry the tag of the community. That's why, as you said, I am their leader. And I have no apologies to
answer what Naisula asked you.
Naisula asked me about, and I agree. I think we need to protect the environment, more so the sea. There was even one time some people wanted to dispose of condemned sugar into the sea, and we refused. NEMA has a very strong enforcement policy. The other stakeholders who protect our marine at the coast are also on top of everything, and we will make sure. But Honorable Isuda, maybe if you have the details, you'll help us. But that particular company, we will deny the licenses straight away.
The climbers?
Mr. Speaker, the camels are many. The climbers, Mr. Speaker, even at the bottom of most of these mountains, particularly Abadeas, and their facilities, only that they have been left to waste. So we need first to have the facilities, the lodges. It can be a very good tourism attraction. And then on top, as they climb.
Honorable Duale, I think I've climbed Kilimanjaro, so I know what happens.
Yes.
At every stop where people eat, there should be these bio toilets that
Yes.
can be, the waste can be disposed.
Yes.
There should be the containers for people to throw the paper, if they're carrying any bottles and so on, but also bandas so that they can sleep at intervals. Because I know that if that doesn't happen, then what happens is the waste ends up being left and you get volunteers who actually go and pick it up. So it's actually a way of protecting the climbing route.
I'll find out. And in fact, there are 10 of my good friends who have left today for Kilimanjaro for 10 days. But I think it's a very good idea. We will make sure that we implement it. It will help us in increasing the numbers of the people who will climb.
Also, the climbers to be hired in the Kenya Forest Service and get the wildlife.
Okay. Yes. Mr. Speaker, there's a clarification I would require from the nominee. Because when I asked the question, I said I've read the question from someone called Paul Mutua from Kitui. In his response, he has said that, and this is on record, he said leaders from Machakos and Kitui. Now, this is not a leader, this is just a person who sent me the message. I can even share with him. So I would like a clarification. When he says leaders from Machakos and Kitui are basically picking on him, it's important because I'm a leader from Machakos and I'm just reading a question.
Because I have held...
That will be an interjection. Leaders of Garissa and leaders of Kitui. They have nothing to do with it, Honorable Speaker.
No, I think if you allow me, he has asked a very good question. He has asked a very good question, but I want to give evidence. Speak on a number of times. And one of the time was when my good friend, the Wiper leader, lost his mother. I think, his father, one of his parents. And I went with the President Uhuru Kenyatta. And starting with the leader of Wiper, all the way to all the leaders from that region, one after the other, and I can provide the clip. They have mentioned me that I am the cause of the conflict. And in my presence, and in fact in the morning when I was leaving, I told President Uhuru Kenyatta, that will happen. And he says, let's go. And they were telling him, but he never replied. I have other times when leaders from that region had a dispute. Garissa doesn't have a border with Mwingi or Kitui. We have a river border, but the really border is between Tana River and Kitui. So it is something which is in the public domain. It is the leaders, the senator for Kitui, the leadership.
Not go that route.
But that's it.
Let's not go that route.
I'll find another avenue to deal with that matter, not at the vetting.
All public people have at one time or another been others' punching bags. And we live with it. So it should not, it's part of the occupational hazard. Honorable Duale will end with you by asking you, yes, by asking you.
I take. That's out of order, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable
and even mentioning my party leader by the nominee is also unfair. Because that was never the issue. I just showed a message from a person, and I said I'm willing to show the message to the candidate.
Honorable Kalonzo is not an issue here.
Yes.
So,
Mr. Speaker, I withdrew. I have a lot of respect for Honorable Kalonzo.
Thank you.
I have a lot of respect for Honorable Mbui. He was my schoolmate. I have nothing personal. I am sorry I withdrew.
Thank you. Honorable Duale, now answer the following. Have you been adversely mentioned in any integrity-related reports or investigations?
Never in my life, Mr. Speaker.
Do you hold any leadership position in any political party?
No, but I'm a member of a political party. No leadership. Member, I'm allowed, yes. Mr. Speaker. I read the law.
State your net worth.
My net worth, Mr. Speaker, is, as of today, 980 million.
980 million?
Yes.
Comprising?
I have provided comprises of, I have pieces of land, both in Garissa and Nairobi, my house in Nairobi, my house in Garissa, my cattle ranch in Garissa, my rental property in Nairobi and Garissa, my shares in family-owned business, my camels and cattle and motor vehicles. And Mr. Speaker, lastly, I got good revenue from the book sales of my autobiography, which is one of the best selling book, the #1 best-selling book as of today.
How much were you worth when we last vetted
851.
you? 851.
Point of order, Speaker.
Yes.
The nominee recently launched his book, and he says that it has good some returns. I mean, there are thousands of books that have been launched in this country. I want to know how yours performed so well.
I think you need to read my book, you'll see it's the best.
That is not a fair question. Leave it there.
The Speaker, and it is from a research done by bookshop sellers, textbook center.
I bought 20 copies and
yes, thank you,
distributed
Mr.
to
Speaker.
my schools.
And I have now done my 4th publication.
Honorable Duale, we had received 71 memorandum on you, some supporting, some opposing, and we are satisfied that you answered all of them when we forwarded them to you. We've also checked your documents against what we have. They are correct. Yes?
Chair, maybe just as a nominee concludes, because this matter of declaration has become a matter of public interest now, especially to our brothers and sisters in the room. The movement from your last declared net worth to your declared net worth now, can you explain
the growth?
The growth. Almost 130 or so.
Ichungwa is an accountant, and there is both for land investment and real estate property, usually the appreciation increases between 12 to 15%. So if you calculate 851 by 12% or 15%, that growth that amount will come to it. Yeah. It's about 140 million.
Thank you,
Honorable. And Mr. Speaker, also, we had got very good rains, so my livestock grew in number.
Yes. Okay, Honorable Duale, we are done with you. Unless you are otherwise lawfully held, you are released to go to your other daily routine work.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I really appreciate the time you have given me and your members. I wish you all the best.
Take back your documents.